first gonna have to apologize to you, because I'm gonna have to just sit down. I had the MRI and stuff on my back, I got the surgery coming up. In the meantime, it hurts to stand up. So, if y'all will indulge me a bit between now and when I get the surgery.
We'll even hold you up if we have to.
I will, maybe. As long as I can sit down, I'm good. There's several things that I want to kind of go over today. spLOST is one of them, but there's a number of things I want to.
Did it pass?
I'm sorry.
Did spLOST pass?
It did. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I was really worried, but it passed, and the numbers were good. It was about 60 scores, so it worked out well. Y'all may have heard me rant about social media. I do that all the time. And I'm not going to really rant about it today, except there's a couple of things going on that I want to address. One of which is I never realized what a crooked, corrupt criminal, incompetent, crooked, and corrupt criminal I was until I started reading about me on social media. But one of the things in relation to Charlie stealing all the money and we could have good roads if you quit pocketing county's money and that kind of thing is we need to have an audit. When was the last time a county had an audit? So I want to address that. Last time a county had an audit was 2025. We have an audit every single year. It's very extensive by an outside organization. Everything always turns up fine. It's public record. Anybody wants a copy of it, let me know. We'll get you one. But that answers the question of when was the last time we had an audit.
They check your backyard?
They did not check my backyard. If they had, they would have found a whole bunch of construction folks there from when I had the house fire. But the other thing is taxes. I keep hearing about, you're taxing us to death. I mean, this is ridiculous. You just want money more and more and more. You're all greedy. The State Department of Revenue puts out a report every year where they list all 159 counties and what their property tax rate is. And they break it out. The millage rate for the school board is this, the millage rate for county M&O is that. They don't rank it for you. So you have to put a little work into it, because if you want to figure out where Gilmer County stands in that, Gilmer County is 6 point something. I don't have the exact thing off the top of my head, so I'm not going to quote a fictitious number, but we're 6 point something total millage rate for the county government now. This is not the school board. I have nothing to do with the school board. This is what the county gets. And what the county gets is about a little less than 30 cents of every dollar that you pay in property taxes. So if you go down through there and you're looking at the various counties, the way I did it last time I figured this up is I started counting what their county M&O tax and maintenance and operation tax is. So the millage rate will be this, okay? That's less than Gilmer County, so maybe they're less than us. But wait a minute, they have a $2 million public safety add-on to that. You gotta add that in because that counts. They have a $1.5 million recreational thing. You have to add all that together, and then you come up with maybe 8.5 mils, or in some cases 13, 14, 15 mils. Okay, so push that to the side. They're more than we are. I'm only interested when I go down through there and figuring out who's less than me. The last time I did that, Gilmer County was number 5 from the bottom. 159 counties. Gilmer County had the 5th lowest property tax rate of those 159 counties. Now that was 2-3 years ago. It's been done since then, not by me, because I'm not going to spend an hour and a half doing it again. And I understand the latest is we're up to now to about, we're number 8 instead of number 5. So I'm still happy with that. Out of 159 counties, we're the 8th lowest in property tax. So when I read about how taxing people to death. I have a little bit of a problem with that. Then I read about what we're doing with the taxes, and I really want to address that a little bit. Running a government, a county government, is a lot like, it's a balancing act. We have over 32,000 people here in this county. With 32,000 people, you know, you get a lot of different perspectives of what's important and what's not. For most people, what's important is roads. Most people, that doesn't mean all people. We found out fairly recently that there is a very large contingent of people here in Gilmer County that are interested in recreation. Now, a lot of those folks are interested because their kids or their grandkids play sports or like to play sports, and they think that we need more, and correctly so, that we need more opportunities for them to do that, particularly in basketball. The county has no indoor basketball courts. We've got a little thing in the Civic Center, but that's you couldn't have tournaments there or anything like that. The school board has been wonderful. They've let us use their basketball courts to help the young kids play. But, you know, we do need our own facility for that. We had two meetings a couple of years ago, town hall type meetings, because people wanted to discuss this sports complex. And the first one was in the assembly room, and they were lined up all the way out the door there. There might have been 3 people there that were opposed to it. Everybody else was not only in favor of it, but they were adamantly and very aggressively in favor of it. So we had that, and we came out with that with the idea that, okay, there's a lot of people here that really want a recreational facility. There were folks that were opposed to it, and in meetings, they said, we didn't realize that you're even having a meeting, so we need to do this again. Okay. So we scheduled a second meeting, and we put this one in the auditorium of the elementary school, much larger venue. And that one was full up and out the door. And again, in fact, I had to caution people a couple of times, if you don't tone it down, I'm gonna have to just call the meeting and have to go home. Because they were not just in favor of this, they were adamantly in favor of it. This time we might have had 10, 15, 20 people there opposed, and I'm gonna say we had probably 300 or more there looking for this. The point is not that we do or don't need a recreational facility. The point is that there's a second opinion out there for this. There's things out there other than roads that people actually really care a lot about. So, as the chairman of the Board of Commissioners, how do I say, no, roads are all that we care about. We don't care about you people that want recreation. Can't do that. We've got to try to accommodate to the best that we can as many different perspectives as we can. So, the recreational facility drew a lot of heat this year in terms of the spLOST. And there were a lot of things that were said that, in my mind, were, I'm not gonna say lies, but they were lies. One of them, and I had to caution one person, if you're gonna quote me correctly, quote me accurately. It was that I had said that the only thing other than paying the debt service for spLOST would be roads. I never said that. What I said was that, yes, there's money usually left over after we pay the debt service. That money goes to roads. That money goes to recreational facilities. We've done some recreational stuff with it. We bought a number of vehicles for various departments. That's all bought with spLOST money. Basically, everything you see, whether it's your road getting paved or a new ladder truck for the fire department, you name it, that's all bought with spLOST money after the debt service has been paid with the money that's left over. So, when we talk about spLOST, we're talking about primarily the debt service, and that was the big thing because that is not optional. That is paid for by the spLOST, probably in excess of 60% of that, according to state figures, that are a couple of years old. are paid for by visitors to the county who come into the Apple Festival or wherever. They have meals, they buy gas, and stay overnight. So a lot of the money that's raised by spLOST is not raised locally, it's from people visiting the county. That's the way you want to pay your debt if you can, because if we don't have that, guess who has to pay the whole thing? Well, that's going to be the property owners of Gilmer County. It would have been a disaster, absolutely would. One person on social media said, let's all vote against spLOST and make them justify raising our taxes. There is no justify. There's no option. When this all went down, when this debt was incurred, the county revenues were pledged toward that. The property taxes were pledged toward that. If we don't pay that debt, what happens is the state will come in. They will seize our property taxes. They'll pay the debt, and whatever's left, they'll give back to us to run the county with. So it was never an either or or an if kind of a situation. So I'm very grateful just for that the spLOST passed. But I will also say that over the years we paved or repaved a number of roads. We've rebuilt some bridges. We bought fire equipment. We bought road equipment. One of the biggest surprises I got when I first took office was when I went out to the road department to see what they had to work with. Nothing. I mean, basically nothing. They had 3 dump trucks. The dump truck with the least number of miles on it had over 300,000 miles on it. The newest dump truck they had was over 20 years old. And everything else they had was in similar state of age and use. Anytime something would break, it was a challenge because everything was so old you couldn't find parts to fix it anymore. It was a bad situation. That's all been pretty much taken care of. They have what they need to do that work. And every bit of that came from the money that was left over after the debt was paid. We paid the roads. Typically, we'll pay 8 or 9 roads or repay 8 or 9 roads a year. That's possible for the most part. Just about everything else that we do, the fire and everything, is spLOST money. I guess it's been 3 years ago now, we did what we call the supplemental plan. I don't know, does anybody in here remember the supplemental plan? What happened was, when I took office, we had, the county reserve was $80,000. Now, $80,000 for a county reserve, that includes what? But that's what it was. And we were lucky to have that because I will have to say, when J.C. Sanford took office, he didn't even have that. And he was the right man at the right time. A lot of people think I didn't like J.C. because I ended up running against him. I thought very highly of J.C. The only problem J.C. had was when he did get things back under control. I mean, he cut everything to the bone, which he had to do, didn't have any choice. But once things did start improving, he wouldn't loosen up any. And I think people got tired of living that way. And when things could start easing up some, I've always said that I didn't win that election. J.C. lost it. It's not the same thing, even though the end result is the same thing. So there was an $80,000 reserve. It should have been somewhere around $7 or $8 million to be in line with what the auditors wanted. We found ourselves about 3 years ago with a reserve, even after everything that we had done all over the county, of about $17 million. Now, $17 million, when you have a reserve of $17 million, one of 2 things has to happen. If everything in the county is good, you need to cut taxes. Everything in the county wasn't good. We had roads that needed to be paved, we had all kinds of things that needed to be done, that were things that we could push off a little bit as we went along trying to do things that were more urgent. So, if you've got things that need to be done, well, then you turn loose of some of that reserve. You put it down where it needs to be, in our case, we decided $7 million. And you use the rest of it to try to make things good again. That year we paved or repaved 35 roads. I don't think we've ever done anything like that in Gilmer County, but we were trying to use excess, what I'll call excess reserve money to get something done for the people, because we didn't need to have a reserve that high. So we've done that. We've tried since then to maintain at least $7 to $8 million, and we've been able to do that. So, that's a little bit about, the taxes, what they're going for at the spLOST. I do want to talk a little bit about the tax rates and the fact that we're gouging everybody, and we're greedy and we'll never get enough. 2 years ago, in the 2023 legislative session, the legislators gave us House Bill 581. House Bill 581 was their response to a lot of complaints they were getting from a lot of people that, our county is raising the millage rate when they don't have to, and this kind of stuff. The problem with anything that comes out of the legislature is that it's a one-size-fits-all. They can't go and say, okay, in this county you've got this problem, you need to correct it, you have to do this, and in this county it's different. They come up with something across the board. What they came up with was a floating exemption. Does everybody in here fully understand what a floating exemption is? I have not found that to be the case.
I think it's contingent upon when you purchased your property, what the valuation was at that time.
It is
Yes.
exactly that. But
40% of
the way
that.
it works is, I built my house in 2005, and I'm just gonna pick a nice round number and say $300,000. In 2006, Gilmer County adopted the floating exemption. So my base rate was set based on my 2006 assessment. I don't remember what it was in 2006, but let's just say $300,000. Now you pay taxes on 40% of whatever your assessment is. So if your assessment is $300,000, then $120,000 would be what I pay my taxes on. So whatever your assessment is, 40% of that is what they calculate your taxes on. It'll be that 40% times the millage rate. So my assessment in 2006, my base rate, my floating exemption was, for purpose of this discussion, $120,000. That lasts almost forever. And let's say in 2007, my assessment went from $300,000 to $400,000. Okay, that kind of thing happens nowadays, and people scream bloody murder. Oh, you've raised my assessment, my taxes are going, you're just ripping me off my taxes. They don't understand what a floating exemption is. My floating exemption is $120,000, and they raised my assessment to $400,000. 40% of that now becomes $160,000. So now instead of paying taxes on $120,000, I'm paying taxes on $160,000. Except I have a floating exemption. My $120,000 floating exemption goes up to $160,000. Every time my assessment goes up on that 40%, my floating exemption goes up an equal amount. So that I'm still paying taxes on $120,000. Now that's the part that people have a problem with.
I still don't understand what you just said though.
Okay. 40% initially was $120,000. That's what I'm paying taxes on. We're okay up to there?
Yep.
Okay. The next year, my assessment goes up from $300,000 to $400,000. 40% of that is now $160,000. So I would be paying taxes on $160,000. Only I've got a floating exemption that was set at $120,000. It never changes. When my 40% raises by $40,000, my floating exemption raises by $40,000.
Oh, okay.
So now I'm still paying taxes on $120,000, even though my assessment went up $100,000.
So it would impact that. So if you would raise millage, you would get,
Now, if I raise
okay, if you
the millage-
raise millage, then
Okay,
that increases.
I'm talking about
Okay.
floating
Right.
exemption here. Anytime the millage rate goes up, your taxes go up.
Even for those with a floating exemption.
Even with those with floating
Yes.
exemption, what I'm not saying it's not going up. What I'm was saying is, it's not going up in relation to the new assessment, to the higher assessment of your property.
Understood.
It's going up only because of the higher millage rate based on that older assessment of your property, if that makes sense. I was paying taxes in 2006 on $120,000. In 2023, I still pay taxes on $120,000. Now, it's $120,000 times whatever the millage rate was, and the millage is going up and down over the years. I'm talking about assessments and property values going up. When your property values go up and you have a floating assessment, it does not automatically mean that your taxes go up. If your assessment goes up $100,000 and your millage rate stays the same, your taxes are gonna stay the same. Would you agree?
Yes, but would you agree also
As
that
long
if
as we
you
stay on
raise?
topic. I'm
Yes,
not
sir,
talking
it's
about-
exactly on topic. I'm not trying to sideline you or anything. I just want clarification. So if a county there's a chokehold on revenues because of the floating exemption, one possible way that the county, even though it had $20 million in reserves, which even the auditor admitted was a lot of money, you might raise millage even in a rollback year to overcome that challenge, to increase revenues that would see you the following year $20 million additional in excess revenues.
I'm trying to explain the floating exemption and what that does. I will acknowledge that if we raise the millage rate, taxes go up. I'm not trying to.
Even for those with the exemption, is all I'm trying to clear
We'll
up.
talk about that, but let me finish on floating exemption first. I just want
Okay.
to make sure people understand floating exemption.
Thank you.
Because it's a very confusing kind of a thing, and this actually confuses it more because you keep trying to bring the millage rate in. Floating exemption is what you pay taxes on, is that 40%. The intent is to keep that 40% from going up, even though your assessment on your property is going up. Now, if the millage rate goes up, your taxes are gonna go up. It's not what I'm talking about yet. I'm just trying to explain floating exemption. So, that aside, does everybody understand what I'm saying about floating exemption? I'm just saying that once you establish a base rate, it stays there. If your property assessment goes up, but your millage rate doesn't, your taxes aren't gonna increase. Because whatever amount your property taxes, your assessment went up, your floating exemption is gonna go up an equal amount and be subtracted from that, and you're still gonna be paying taxes on, in my case, in the example, $120,000. So that's the floating exemption. There's only two things that can change your floating exemption once it's set in place. If you sell your property, whoever buys it has their floating exemption set at the current value of the property. So there's that. The other thing is if you do a complete remodel, and you deem to have basically a new house inside, that will set your floating exemption to the current year. Ask me how I know. We had a house fire a couple of years ago. Took 2 years before we could get back in. They took it down to the studs, brought it all back up. My $120,000 tax rate floating exemption was reset to the 2025 value. I'm sorry, 2024 value. So instead of $120,000 that I pay taxes on now, it's more like $300,000 I'm paying taxes on right now. Since I'm old enough, I don't have to pay the school tax. I'll give you some almost actual figures because I don't remember to the penny. In 2023, I paid $800 and some county taxes. Didn't pay the school tax, just county taxes. In 2025, I paid $1,500 county taxes without the school taxes. The only difference was my floating exemption from 2006 went away and was replaced by a floating exemption from 2024, which was a much higher value. So, you know, I'm a living, breathing example of what floating exemption can do for you.
What percentage of a remodel kicks in? You said a complete remodel, but so if you do 50% of a remodel?
I don't know, you'd have to ask the tax board that. All I know is that they told me that mine was 100%. So.
Well, I'm saying if you got an exemption, if you've got you know,
Can't hear you.
base rate from 2008,
maybe do
and all of a
that.
sudden you add a master bedroom suite to your house. You
I
know,
don't think
what
that would be,
happens
I
if
don't think
that's
that would
30%?
qualify as total,
No.
renovation, but, you know.
You have to
you'd have
teach
go
me
with the
step
tax
by
report
step.
on that.
It's a challenge to
And in my
me.
case, they took it all down to the studs, rewired, redone everything.
Take it out.